And so I just appreciate the what you've done here and the opportunity to be a part of helping women step into the fullness of who they're supposed to be. And in my case, definitely a focus on trying to take out all of the overwhelm, especially the overwhelm that comes with technology. And again, going back, you mentioned it a couple times as you're doing the intro. For me, it really is beginning with the end in mind. And all too often, as people get started in a business, they may have been talking to a whole bunch of other people. They've gone to webinars, workshops, and they've got all of these people who've told them, these are all the tools you need. And if you have this tool, it's going to make your life beautiful and it's going to be perfect. And that may be true. But in most cases, they end up with this conglomeration of things that they're not entirely sure what to do with them. And as a result, the overwhelm sets in, the confusion sets in, and then you're up against all of those roadblocks. So I very much in everything I do truly believe in the Stephen Covey quote of beginning with the end in mind. Because at different stages in a business, you have different needs. I was working with a client a couple, 3 years ago, and at that moment, what she needed to be able to do was collect money, book people into a workshop she had already created. She had already had everything she needed, and she needed a Zoom account. Yet she was so deep in the weeds of evaluating all the tools that she needed for the way out future that she wasn't doing what she most immediately needed then, which was make money. And so by beginning with the end in mind, you can start with what do you need now? You don't have to have the perfect everything in place immediately. You need to have the perfect thing in place for what you're doing right in that moment. And so where you're able to get down to the what do I need now? And then create that roadmap that gets you to what you need for the long term, you're able to put in place the things you need now and create that plan that takes you into the future. But the only way to truly do that is to have a clear vision of where you're going, what you're looking to do in the long term, and then what's the short-term milestones. So when we talk about beginning with the end in mind, it really is getting clear on what is the vision for your business, what is the vision, the mission, all of those things. Where you have that in place, then you can start putting the right stuff in place, whether it's processes, whether it's tools, whether it's procedures, whether it's team. In many cases, sometimes it's the addition of a team member that can take away the overwhelm because you have someone that's able to help you advance more quickly, and it costs you less money by adding a team member than it does for you to try and figure it out all on your own. So where you really get very clear on your end goals, you can then start creating a path that looks like where you want to go. And so as we, just even consider this, and I'm going to just pose some questions, and maybe you can jot down some thoughts, and we can have a little bit of a conversation about this afterwards. But what does a successful, smooth running business look like to you? And just a few thoughts on what that might be. And then the other is, how do you want technology to support you? And more importantly, not control you, because you can get so tied into the technology that it starts controlling you as opposed to supporting and helping you go beyond. And if you're in that place of overwhelm, frustration, or whatever, what's the area that you are most frustrated with right now? And then kind of the follow on to those questions is, which tools, and actually I'm going to just drop these in the chat because I can. Which tools are helping you and which tools are holding you back, or more importantly, they're duplications of tools. You've got many tools and they're all trying to do the same job, or they're doing them in different ways. Linda talked a little bit about how you were, how you've got the tools that aren't talking to one another. And So there's one of the biggest challenges and struggles is, especially early on, business owners kind of piece together all of the free or the cheap or the whatever tools and get them kind of talking, but not really talking. One of the challenges with having multiple tools, trying to make them communicate with one another, is that all works great initially when you get them all figured out and set up and working. And then somebody makes a change. And all of a sudden, what used to work stops working, and you've now got a break in your system. And so as you start looking at beginning with the end in mind, but even in this moment, what are all those things that you're struggling with in your technology place? What's the things that you love? And what are the things that you are frustrated by? And what are the things you would love to have be gone? Because that's what can go then into the next step, which is truly taking an inventory and starting to eliminate the extras. And as I say that, it's really easy to get drawn into the trap of getting all of these free trials, these free tools, these low-cost things, and then never use them. That's a challenge for a couple reasons. One is, especially if they're low cost, maybe you don't think too much about it, and on a monthly basis, you're just paying those and you're not using the tools. So that's just a waste of your resources. But the other piece is that it is an energetic drain. Anything that you've got all of this extra, just like clutter in your house, it creates chaos for you in general. Clutter in your technology does the same thing. It's one of those that somewhere in the back of your mind is like, back here, I really need to go look at that tool because I think it's going to fix this problem. And so it's weighing you down and not allowing you to focus on all of the things that you could be doing right now to move your business forward.
And Erlene, is that true too when it comes to AI? I think that there is so much focus right now on integrating AI tools into automation, into tech stacks, somehow ensuring that AI is a part of all of our outreach, all of our marketing and sales initiatives. And, I hear more and more that I don't know if I'm using the right AI tool. I don't know if I'm integrating in the right way. Should I even be doing this? Because I'm not sure it's saving me much time.
Yeah, and it definitely is. And you're right. AI is one of those, it's one of those things that's really amazing, but it's also the other thing that does take you away from the thing that you need to be doing now, which gets back to the very first step. As you're talking technology, as you're talking AI, whatever you're talking, what is it you're really trying to achieve? And at the point where you know what you're trying to achieve, you can integrate the right things as opposed to, again, there's lots of people out there, very well-meaning people who are selling stuff that work really well if it's meeting your specific needs. But it's easy to be drawn into oh, that sounds amazing, I need that. And it doesn't really meet the needs of what you need to do in your business at that point. So now you've just added in this other thing you're trying to learn, all of the other technology pieces or the other things in your business that's taking you away from doing what is most important, and that is serving the clients you're supposed to serve. And so again, going back to the very beginning, I think the title I had is Simplify Your Tech, Amplify Your Impact. And that really is the point of whether it's tech, AI, or anything. Simplify, use what you need, and then be strategic in creating the roadmap to get you to where you're going. And that in and of itself, maybe you have some things that are on your roadmap that you really do want to integrate, but do it in a methodical way so that it's not creating overwhelm and chaos, but instead it then brings ease and grace as you go through that process. And then you don't have to deal with the struggle of I've got to get this done and I've got to get this done. And now you're spending so much time on trying to get those all in place that you're truly not serving the clients that you're intended to serve. So yeah, AI is definitely in that camp. And so one of the first steps, and again, this is some of those action steps, is list everything you're using or you're not using. And so I'll put these things in the chat as well that you can just go and as the step by step, how do you go through that? But what are all of the subscriptions you have, the receipts, confirmations, emails, check, your bank account, look at your phone, what kind of software do you have is a really great start. And one of the other things to beware of is there's always you can save 10%, 20% if you buy a full year as opposed to just paying month to month. If you know it's a tool that you're invested in the long run and you really do know it's the right tool, then that might be a wise choice. But if you're just getting started with something and you think it's the best answer, go month to month. You can always change them later. And by the way, all of those free trials or those free subscriptions that you're not using, you can delete them now and you can also reapply later. You can get it back. So by getting rid of the stuff you're not using, you've released that energy, you release that clutter, just like the clutter in your house. That energetic clutter is a big deal too. That's zapping your energy, that's zapping at least some parts of your time and all of the other things that are going on in the background for you. So you have my permission to delete anything you're not using now and go resubscribe later if you need it, because it's not going to help you if you're not going to use it, but it will hurt you whether you recognize it or not. So it's, just take that inventory and look at what you can start getting rid of. The other thing in saying that is don't let this overwhelm you too. If you've got so many things that you're saying, okay, I've got to get this all done, and it again is taking away from advancing your business, set aside a small chunk of time. Use that in a time block that you go take care of okay, I'm going to get rid of, 5 subscriptions I have. I'm going to go do this thing and do it in small chunks as opposed to assuming you have to get it all done in one shot. Because that, just like implementing technology and all of those things, can be the same, that can create another level of overwhelm, just the same way as all of the things that are weighing you down on the technology side. And once you go through all of your list of subscriptions, then you're looking at putting that into 3 categories even. Essential, you use it regularly, you see value, and it's going to be something that supports, or it is something that is supporting your business. You've got something else that's maybe you don't use it much. It might be useful. Even that one probably falls in the next category, which is the cancel. And it's where you're paying for it, but you don't use it. And those definitely get rid of the subscriptions, even the free ones. Just because it's free doesn't mean it's truly free. Honestly, some of the most expensive software is free because it's causing you to think about it. What are all the things that I should be doing? I should go look at that. I should go to this training. I should go do, all of those shoulds that get you into so much trouble. You have permission to not should on all of those and just cancel the subscription. If it truly becomes important, then it'll come back around in a way that you then understand what it is and how you're supposed to use it, how you can use it. And then you'll be able to put it in place as a part of your roadmap, as opposed to just adding to all of the clutter that's kind of hanging out. So I've gone through a couple steps. I've got a couple more that we're going to talk about next. But are there any other questions real quick that, as I start giving you permission to do random things like delete software and subscriptions to stuff, is there anything else that comes up for anyone that you just have some questions about?
I think for me, when it comes to trying to delete things and get rid of, especially software, I'm always afraid that it's overlapping with something that I'm not aware of, and I'm going to delete something that's going to mess up something else.
And that kind of goes back to the earlier point I was making, Kathy, of that where you've got things that you have two things that are trying to talk to each other, that integration point, you're right. That is where there is more danger that you're running into that. And there are ways to safely evaluate whether there's something that you're doing with one that's going to affect the other. But yeah, that definitely, and that is the scary part, especially if technology isn't really your friend, it's your frenemy, maybe, if it has even made it that close to being a friend, or more importantly, even your enemy, but the necessary evil. So that definitely can be one of those challenges. So great point. So thank you, Kathy. All right, and give anyone else if you have comments, and by the way, if you have questions, just drop them in the chat. I am keeping an eye on the chat just to be able to jump in there. But the next is the third step really is to choose simple and scalable tools. And I will tell you that for me, I have really come to the place of fully investing in and agreeing with the all-in-one tools, which go high level. We have the white labeled version available through C-Suite as a part of our leadership global membership. That is a tool that has all those things all integrated. And that the reason that there's so much value there is that kind of your point, Kathy, about I'm afraid I'm going to delete something and it's going to break something else. Well, go high level. If it's all integrated together, you've got your landing pages, you've got your automations in place, you've got your email marketing in place, and all of those things in place, where you've got those all in one tool. You don't have the risk of this tool changed something and now it doesn't talk to my other tool. And all of a sudden you've got broken systems because you had two that were working really well together. And then somebody decided it was important to make an upgrade, and they didn't do a really good job of communicating with others who were other tools that had integrated with them. And so, yeah, Laura, I see your comment. You've had that experience. It's absolutely true. Let's see. And yesterday I tried to get on two LinkedIn events and you couldn't get the links to work. They made you sign in, pick up. Yeah. And so again, just those challenges. And so where you can have things that integrate are all in an all-in-one tool, that does simplify your workflow. It simplifies your processes. And even Go High Level is a great example of one. It has so much power that it's very easy to get into I've got to take advantage of it all now, instead of getting it implemented in incremental small steps that get in place what you need now to support your business, with a clear understanding of how you move forward and what the next steps are.
So, Eileen, what are some of the most common mistakes that people make with their tech stack? So I hear you: simplify, streamline, get rid of any free platforms that you are or are not using, ensure that, to the degree you can, that everything is integrated, everything is simplified and streamlined. But with Go High Level, which is available through the Leadership Global membership through C-Suite, the question that I hear most of the time is, wow, it seems overwhelming and confusing to ensure that you're setting it up properly. And I will say, I had this experience, if you are not super careful about ensuring that the right message is going to the right people at the right time, it can absolutely create chaos, right? And I paid someone to ensure that that didn't happen, and it still happened. Meaning I paid someone to ensure that we were using the right lists with right suppression, with the right tags, with the right timing, in the right automation sequence. But the automation sequence that we have is incredibly sophisticated, very, very detailed and personalized. And so it's easy to make mistakes there. Now, that was my experience, but what are some of the experiences that you see in either using Go High Level or other automation platforms that we should be looking for or guarding against?
Yeah, one of the biggest most important, and it goes back to the beginning with the end in mind point, is trying to fit your business into your tool based on how your tool works, as opposed to allowing your tool to amplify your business. So it's so easy to think you have to set everything up in this really big and in complex. And, I know definitely you have a lot of complexity to the way that you've set up Leadership Global. It's, you've done a lot of amazing work to create that. But as businesses start transitioning into a tool, you run into the trap of trying to fit your business into the way the tool wants to work, as opposed to having the tool support you in the way that you need it to work. And so it is having a really clear picture of how your business needs to operate, and then making the tool work for you, as opposed to okay, I've got this tool now, I have to figure out how I can fit my business into it. Does that help answer that question? That I would say would be the biggest and most important thing.